Welcome to Did You Hear That? Your source for the top stories from the Star Wars universe. I'm Pete Fletzer, and along with my co-host Nick Milkey, we'll break down the biggest headlines of the week and share our thoughts on everything happening in that galaxy far, far away. Don't forget, you can catch us live every Thursday evening on our weekly show, ATGlive, over on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@the-SSW Network. Join the conversation, hear from special guests, and get the latest news as it happens. And now, this
week, we are diving in some of the biggest stories in the Star Wars universe. From the past week, The Mandalorian is coming to an end. There are whispers of the demise of the Rey movie. The Acolyte was over budget, and Cal Kestis may be coming to live action. So there's a whole lot to talk about. So let's get to it. Well, first up, The Mandalorian comes to an end with an upcoming movie. No season 4 is planned. The Star Wars universe has seen highs and lows over the years, but The Mandalorian has revived the excitement for many of us fans with its gripping storylines and compelling characters. However, the beloved series may be soon to meet an unexpected end. According to insider Daniel Richtman, there will not be a 4th season of The Mandalorian. Instead, the saga is going to culminate in a planned movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu, which will serve as the series' final chapter. This revelation comes as a shock to many, especially after showrunner Jon Favreau had seemingly confirmed back in February 23 that he had already written the script for Mando Season 4. Despite this, a reevaluation at Disney has led to some changes in their plans. Pedro Pascal's Din Djarin is expected to continue in other Star Wars projects. The future of The Mandalorian as a series itself seems to look a little bit grim. The film's conclusion will mark a pivotal moment for the franchise, leaving fans curious and hopeful about what's next for their favorite Mandalorian and his small green companion. Pete, how does this hit you? Because we've talked about this a lot of times offline.
Yep.
I can see this going both ways, but I want to hear, where are you if we don't get season 4, but this main story ends with the movie?
Yeah, I love that the article says, it comes as a surprise to many fans. It really shouldn't, really, right? I mean, I think there's a couple things going on at Disney. We're going to get to some of this when we get to even the Rey conversation in just a minute. But Disney is starting to really evaluate where that money's going to be spent. I feel like the Mandalorian season ended extremely well with number 3. I didn't love the season, but I thought the last 5 minutes were everything you needed for that story. I don't think we need a season 4 of The Mandalorian, especially if we're going to get a major motion picture that's going to bring those characters back, put them into the heat of something exciting. I don't think continuing it on Disney Plus is necessary. So I'm not shocked and I'm not upset about it, to be honest with you.
Okay. And I can get behind that. I think the question for me is, and I could go either way as well. As I have said too many times, if you give me Mando season 4, you bet your sweet potatoes I'm going to watch it.
Sure.
I'll be there day one. I'll be obnoxious about it, all of the things.
Right.
But if I don't get that, I love the way the season 3 ended on that porch.
Yeah.
Seemingly they've got a home. They're together. That story writes itself. The future adventures write themselves. I'm more interested in how is this series going to translate into a movie? Is it going to feel like a fulfilling end if we go, there were 3 seasons of a TV show and they finished it in a movie? Now, there have been canceled shows. Deadwood is one of my favorites. Maybe this is a good example. There were 3 seasons of Deadwood,
right? And
then 10 years later, we get a Deadwood movie because the show got canceled, too soon. It's a good movie. I enjoy it. Maybe it's not a good movie. I enjoy it because I have affinity for the show and the characters. Is this going to be a similar situation? I don't know. But we're certainly going to find out how it's going to go and what it's potentially going to turn into.
Yeah, I think it's a we said it when we first heard about the Mando and Grogu movie being planned in the first place. It is the safest bet that Disney has probably placed since buying the Star Wars franchise from Lucasfilm, right? It's going to be a success. It's going to do well. And I think if it's going to, because again, I don't think it's the end of Grogu. I don't think it's the end of Din Djarin. But it's going to be a nice sort of end to the story. So I'm all for it. And I can, like I said, I'm not disappointed.
I agree with you. And either way, we're going to get more Mandalorian and Grogu.
Sure.
In which form, or is it twice as much as we thought, or is it half as much as we thought?
Yep.
It also is that interesting point of where else might that character show up if we only get a movie and not another series. Does he show up in a rumored Ahsoka season 2? Does he show up in, we don't know. That's the other intriguing part about all of that.
For sure.
Next up, we have rumors swirl about Rey's Star Wars movie, seemingly called A New Jedi Order. Rumors are swirling about the fate of Rey's upcoming Star Wars film, as I said, rumored to be entitled Star Wars New Jedi Order. Speculation suggests the movie is either delayed or canceled, but Disney has yet to confirm either of those things. New Jedi Order is set 15 years after the rise of Skywalker. It has been one of the most anticipated Star Wars projects, second only to the aforementioned Mandalorian Grogu movie. Despite this uncertainty, Lucasfilm has never officially announced a release date for this movie, so making any claims of delay speculative at best. Many had assumed the movie would be released in December of 2026, but that remains unconfirmed. Recent reports indicate December 26 slot may instead be filled by The Mandalorian and Grogu. Actress Daisy Ridley, who plays Rey, has confirmed that she has yet to see a script for the movie, adding fuel to the rumors. However, with no set release date and more than 2 years left until the assumed release, Lucasfilm still has ample time to complete production. Until an official statement is made, rumors about the film's delay or cancellation, of course, remain unfounded. Pete, this is one of those things, and we're going to get into this kind of in our deep dive in a little bit. We got into it some last week talking about our 10-year plan. We've heard Bob Iger say we're dialing things back. I don't personally think that this movie is canceled. I think it could be delayed, but guess what? Pre-production is nothing but delays based on the people I've talked to who work in this industry.
Yep.
Do you think, we're going to go with an odds betting kind of question here.
Yeah.
Is it more possible in your mind that it's delayed or that it doesn't happen at all?
I think it's much more likely that it's delayed. Of course, the longer it gets delayed, the less likely it is to happen. I think you also have to weigh in Daisy's recent health issues. So I think that has something to do with it. I think we should all rejoice in the fact that Lucasfilm is saying, hey, we're not sure if this is ready to start, so let's do it right. I don't think they've done that in their last handful of series. I think they've been looking to get things out the door. So please take your time with it. Do it right. I think it's going to happen. I think the thing that and we've said it now for 4 years. We've said it since 2020 when Kathleen Kennedy stood in front of that giant wall of titles, which the majority of which have been canceled.
Yep.
They got to be careful with how they're putting these things out. I really don't believe they would have walked Daisy on stage at Celebration last year if this wasn't going to happen. I do think they need to really be honest and open with setting the expectations and saying sometime in the next 7 years, we're going to release these 3 movies and just do that. And keep in mind too, and I think this is the other really important piece, because and your news story said it, nobody ever gave a date for this movie. There was a lot of speculation. Every time somebody saw that Disney was holding a date for a Star Wars project, they were like, this is going to be that movie, that's going to be this movie, that's going to be this one. So I think it's fan speculation more than anything else. It's not Disney making any major moves.
Right. And I think that that's exactly the point. I think I said this a couple of weeks ago at something when we talked about Kenobi. I think the 2 surest bets that Disney could make as far as Star Wars goes would be another season of Obi-Wan Kenobi and the Rey movie, because the built-in audiences, even if people didn't super love Kenobi, we want Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan Kenobi back on some sort of screen.
Yep.
We'll complain about the story. Someone will complain about the stories. That's the nature of the beast. But also the same thing with Rey. Daisy Ridley as Rey is guaranteed to be maybe not be a success, but be a moneymaker, to turn people out, to get people in chairs. And I think at the same time, what we've seen from Disney, bringing her out on stage, making her a key focal point of, presentations, her showing up, breakfast at Disney, at Lucasfilm.
Right.
Like, I think they're committed to it, but I also agree with you completely. The fact that they're willing to go, let's do it right. Let's take our time.
Sure.
Daisy's also at the right age. And with Rey, that if it takes a couple extra years, age isn't going to matter. Like the character, the ages are comparable. for, they can do this when they want to on the time frame they want to. And I think that's a positive. It's kind of like my comment about video games last week. Just don't tell us. Just surprise us with, hey, here's the thing we did.
Yep, for sure. For sure.
Our next news story, this is a tough one because this has been a conversation that, has been going on pretty much since July. The Acolyte exceeded budget by $50 million. Disney Star Wars series, The Acolyte, did reportedly exceed its production of $180 million budget, racking up costs of nearly $230.1 million during post-production. Initially forecasted to stay within the budget, the show, which debuted in June of 2024, faced a significant backlash, facing and leading to its swift cancellation of a potential second season. Despite its promising start, which amassed 4.8 million views on launch day, The Acolyte quickly lost favor with audiences, plummeting to an 18% score on Rotten Tomatoes due to accusations of being woke and poor storytelling. We know how those hollow comments come about, but that's not what this story is about. Critics highlighted the show's uneven dialogue and narrative flaws, while the diversity of its cast drew polarized opinions. Disney chief executive Bob Iger expressed frustration over recent productions, emphasizing the need to prioritize entertainment over messaging. As the streaming giant grapples with an $11.4 billion loss in its direct-to-consumer division, the financial ramifications of The Acolyte raise concerns about future content strategy. These are very buzzwordy kind of things in this story. With production costs potentially rising further due to extensive visual effects, Disney's investment in the series may not yield the returns they hoped for. We've said it from the beginning. We've said it since we found out they weren't going to make more Acolyte. This was a business decision. This story was in 100%. Forbes today.
Yep.
And this only seems to solidify, and that wasn't our original thought. Many people with a level head that aren't just willing to scream the word woke out that they don't understand what happened with The Acolyte was it cost too much money and it didn't get a return on the money that it cost.
Yep.
Pete, this is, a bigger Disney conversation. We've seen it in some of the Marvel stuff. Slow down. Don't make as much. These things all cost. When you're putting out 7 TV shows and 3 movies a year like Marvel is, when you're doing all these different things. We said it last week, but talk about this from a PR and marketing standpoint. That's your professional background.
Mm-hmm.
We're putting out shows that are over budget and they're not doing great. From a marketing standpoint, that seems like, hey, we probably shouldn't do that. But speak to that from your landscape.
Yeah, well, and I think it's also interesting that this has come out after Disney still hasn't put out an official word that The Acolyte's been canceled, right? There's been no press release or marketing that The Acolyte has been canceled. But word has gotten out that it costs too much. So I think that just reinforces what we said before. It was math that killed The Acolyte. It wasn't the big mouths on social media, although they would love to take credit for it. And I think that's the biggest challenge here too, because honestly, and I will get some shit for this, but the reality is I don't know where $180 million went into this show. I sure as hell don't know where $230 million went. $250 million went into an 8-episode show at 40 minutes an episode. And some of it was the worst looking Star Wars that we've seen on television. I mean, those speeder bikes, some of just the details. But I think from a marketing perspective, they can't spend $250 million on something that has a great first day and then a first week and then drops the way it does. As I said, with heavy spoilers on the podcast this week, Disney doesn't make a lot of money on the television shows and the movies themselves. Yes, they're, the more it makes, the more they make, etc. But it's about selling merchandising and selling commitment and loyalty to the franchise and selling action figures. Very few people, not nobody, very few people are clamoring for their Yord and Jekki action figures. Very few people are. I couldn't, if I saw one of the ships from the show again on a toy shelf, I don't know that I would recognize it. So they spent a ton of money on this and the return was not there. Leave all the woke stuff out. Leave all the alleged woke stuff. Please let me be very, very clear about that. And that commentary, the political commentary, nothing to do with this show. It wasn't executed well. It wasn't the best looking show. It did have some of the best lightsaber battles we've seen in a while, but overall, the show just didn't connect. And at $230 million, it's not going to happen again.
Yeah. And it's tough. And you have to be concerned about what kind of trickle down does this have to potential future other TV projects. Is there an Ahsoka 2 on the table? Is there a Kenobi?
Well, that's where your Mando season 4 went. I think,
right.
I really think
Mando season 4 went.
We're putting money in to the movie. We're not going to give it another season for whatever that cost is, 150 million, whatever. So, yep.
Things in the can. Skeleton Crew comes out in December. How is this going to play into that? We don't know. The production's done, but those stories, like anything else, will come out as the show debuts and as we move through that process. So we will see. But it's a reminder, kids, entertainment is a business. And as the old saying goes, there's no business like show business. And this is just, further proof to that as well. Pete, we have one more story, as we typically do on most weeks. Cal Kestis seemingly coming to live action.
What?
Star Wars Jedi protagonist Cal Kestis may soon make his live action debut, according to a leak from insider Daniel Rickman. Very busy man this week.
Yeah.
The popular video game character is reportedly set to appear in an upcoming Disney Plus Star Wars series, although specific details remain scarce. Surprise, surprise. One key question still up in the air is whether Cameron Monaghan, who portrays Cal through voice and motion capture in the games, will reprise his role. While it seems likely, given Monaghan's age and connection to the character, there has again been no official confirmation. As far as which series Cal Kestis will appear in, speculation points to either a new undisclosed Star Wars show or possibly Andor Season 2. With Andor set in 5 BBY and Star Wars Jedi Survivor taking place in 9 BBY, the timelines are close enough for an appearance to make sense. Regardless of where he shows up, fans, myself included, eagerly await confirmation as to the possibility of seeing Kestis in live action grows stronger. Pete, you have played both of the games. I have played the first game. I actually didn't download it last weekend, like I said, so I haven't played the second one yet.
That's all right.
Twofold question. Do you want to see Cameron as Cal in a live action Star Wars show, and where would you like to see him show up?
I would absolutely love it. And in fact, I wouldn't mind just a show that's the Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order game extended into a live action series. I said it last week, and I really believe it. And I think he's one of the more interesting characters we've gotten in a while. And to bring him to life would help expand the knowledge of this character. 90% of the average fans have no idea who Cal Kestis is, just because they don't play the video games. And it's a similar market to the challenge of people who don't know who Captain Rex is because they don't watch animation. So we're missing some good characters because of that. So yeah, let's bring him back. I'd prefer to see him in an Obi-Wan season 2, where there's a whole thing about the path and trying to bring all that stuff together. I think that would be great. But yeah, I can see him in Andor season 2, although I'm very curious to see how much Jedi stuff, if any, any Force stuff shows up in Andor. I think, that's one of the benefits, or one of the key features, if you will, of Andor and Rogue One is the limited role that the Force plays. So yeah, give me him in an Ahsoka or a Kenobi season 2. That would be great.
I could see that. We have said many times, I would love to see some more stories about the path. I would love to see Callan Roken make another appearance, get O'Shea Jackson back in Star Wars.
Yep.
But hear me out. Here's another opportunity. And I like how this story does say, we don't know where could it possibly be in an unnamed upcoming series?
Yeah.
I don't think this is even something on the table, but I should have put this in my 10-year plan last week. Give me a Star Wars series. Make sure that everybody knows it's limited right up front. 8 episodes, 6 episodes. You could do 6, make them an hour long. Give me a series set between Fallen Order and Survivor.
Yeah. What
is Cal up to? Cast our friend Deborah Wilson, bring her back as Seer in live action. There could be some good stories in there. There could be some path connections in that, the earliest beginnings of the path. But let's make that a standalone thing, because I think there's enough of an audience from the video games as well as from the harder core nerds like us who give me minutia. If somebody had made Shadows of the Empire into a 6-episode TV series, people would have eaten that up.
Yeah, they would. Yeah.
So let's do that. We've seen Halo TV shows. We've seen, for crying out loud, Last of Us season 2 trailer drop today.
Right. Oh my
gosh. There
Yeah.
can be some video game things that translate into successful live action things. And I think this one would be easier than maybe we think it could. And it would give us some good Jedi stuff, which everybody's always clamoring for. Absolutely.
And the breadcrumbs were there, no pun intended, with the path stuff that appeared in Kenobi. So let's do it. Well, Nick, that was a lot. It's amazing for a season, a franchise that's dead, allegedly, according to YouTube. Every week we have more stuff to talk about. There's a ton of things going on. Thanks for tuning in to Did You Hear That? Remember, you can join us live every Thursday evening on YouTube at youtube.com/@the SSW Network for all the latest Star Wars news and conversations with special guests. This podcast stream is also home to Around the Galaxy, the weekly Star Wars interview show where we talk to the people behind the Star Wars fandom. Don't forget to connect with us on socials. Find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at the SSW Network, and on Facebook at facebook.com/the SSW Network. You can also support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/the SSW Network, or leave us a voicemail at 504-321-1501. That's 504-321-1501. Don't miss out on the excitement, and we'll see you next time Around the Galaxy. This podcast is copyright 2024 Pete in the Seed Studios, and our music is by the band Apollo's Ghost.